and that is most relevant to teaching communities, I being one of them. And thereafter, realizing all these aspects, we will have to uplift our personality to the spiritual level. When we will come to the spiritual level, then universal human relationship, universal human understanding, that will be very clear for us, and that will be a good lesson for the coming generation to realize the spirit of the human civilization. Wisdom, as I've said about, that it is a law of nature, and we have to follow the law of nature. And if we follow the law of nature and perform our duties primarily based on need and not on greed, then in that case, we have a hope. A famous English poet, T.S. Eliot, he made an observation. I quote, "Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information? The cycles of heaven in 20 centuries bring us farther from God and nearer to the dust." So in this education system, first is the information, and information molded with experience, practical experiences, that results into knowledge. Knowledge are of different types. One is the academic knowledge. I may have different degrees, different learnings. That is within the domain of academic knowledge only. But then second important aspect, as I have mentioned about the upliftment of personality, right from vital to mental to intellectual and spiritual, that gives us the realized knowledge. And that is most essential, I think, in the education system in India, which was there prior to mid of 19th century, when there's long historical evidence will identify it. Then second is, from the knowledge to wisdom. That is the realization, and that is what should be the aim of especially the higher education. But when we talk of education, we cannot confine to higher education only, because we'll have to go down to the foundation, the primary education. Therefrom, we will have to make the course and curriculum in such a way that all the youngsters are acquainted with the Indian culture and heritage, and also the sense of knowledge and wisdom that will develop the good conduct for realization, conduct for sense of belonging, conduct of rationality, and sense of justice. And that is what is the need of the day. Now, morality is another important concept. In most of the disciplines in the higher education, tertiary education, we find that there is a paper known as papers on ethics, legal ethics, medical ethics, or whatnot. But when you talk of ethics, ethics is a science, morality is a concept of it. Then morality has two dimensions. One is the personal dimension. In the personal dimension, to build up and to become all-round developed person, and with the sense of belongingness, we will be able to impart the training to the youngsters and gradually to the high alma maters, the sense of controlling the senses. Secondly, non-attraction to objects. Thirdly, the control of desire. And fourthly, the purity of mind. And that was the earlier education system in India. And from the mid of the 19th century, we have totally ignored those ideas. Then social values and the virtues, the love, the compassion, the friendship, and the brotherhood, which are also very much important. Now, according to the Oriental system, there are 5 categories of teachers. The first is the Adhyapaka, who provides information. Second is the Upadhyaya. He provides the information and knowledge. Third kind of teacher is Acharya, who develops skill. Then fourth kind of teacher is Pandit, that provides deep insight into a particular subject. Then fifth kind of teacher is Drishta, that develops the visionary view on a subject and teaches to think in that manner. And the most important teacher is Guru, that awakens the wisdom and leads from darkness to light. So this is the Indian civilization, and what I feel, and I have gone through the UGC's mandates and also the commission, the committee that was set up for discussing or finding out the ways and means for reformation. And there also I have seen that these things that I have been mentioning about is really discussed in a detailed manner, and the implementation is given much emphasis to. Now the major challenges that the higher education of Indian system face today, it comprises of, first is employability of graduates, unemployment problem because of plans which are not perfect, because of the course and curriculums which are not oriented for building a person in all-round development. It is concentrating on a particular discipline, and it has no nexus to other disciplines which are very much important for development of all individuals in a prospective manner. Second is the upholding of state-of-the-art curriculum. The course and curriculum, depending on the needs and requirements of social change, global change, will have to be updated. And for updating that, we must have a direct study of the society's needs and aspirations, the economic developments, the social developments, the political developments, based on which we'll have to tune our course and curriculum so that it becomes good result oriented. Then third is the most important aspect, that is the enrichment and maintenance of quality of teaching. Normally, in the Oriental system, education is service. But in the Occidental system, as we have adopted about 200 years back, it is, education is an industry. And accordingly, we are proceeding on. So the service orientation is totally ignored in our education system. That will have to be revived very importantly. And that is why I have given much emphasis to that. To be a teacher, we will have to acquire those qualities so that we can not only provide information to the students or the participants, we will have to provide them knowledge, that is the realized knowledge, not the academic knowledge only, realized knowledge. Then we will have to be able to develop in them the skill that is needed. And also we will have to develop the insight in each of them to enter into the depth of that particular subject. And thereafter, we will have to make a visionary view of the subject and teach how they are to perform the thinking process, the development of quality, and the lateral thinking of innovation and creativity. And lastly, as a teacher, we must be able to awaken the wisdom. That is what is needed, the need of the day in the world, not only in India. And that leads us from darkness to light. Om Asaduma Sadgamaya, Tamasuma Yotir Gamaya. So Tamasuma Yotir Gamaya, a guru as a teacher, he will be able to lead us from the darkness of knowledge to the light of knowledge, realized knowledge. Then only we can think about a better nation. Next important aspect is the research and services. As I've said about, in our Oriental system, it is oriented towards service. Say, for example, if we take resort to the Constitution, all the constitutionally incorporated services, whether in the executive, whether in the judiciary, whether in the public service, it is oriented to be in the service of the humanity or the community. But then today, in the education system, the service aspect is totally ignored as a result of which there are different types of crises in our system. Research. Research, it should be the fundamental research on the basis, and it must be guided by the spiritual principles. Then only that research will have good impact on society, social, economic development will be there in our society, harmony will be there in the society, peace will be there in our society. That aspect is very much important. Today, we are in the technology, science, we are in the stage of science and technology. We cannot avoid technology. Technology is most essential to us, but then how to regulate the technology for the betterment of society is very important aspect. Now, adoption of information and communication technology in teaching and learning. Today, we are totally impacted by a natural calamity of corona, wherein right from the primary to a highest alma mater, there is no formal system of education, and that is why it has to be dependent upon the technological devices for teaching learning method, so that our time is not wasted, and that is why technology is most important. But then too much of technological saving without the principles of morality, without the principles of spiritualism, that may also lead us to astray. That is very important aspect. And based on that, we will have to make a preparation for the next generation so that they are a responsible citizen and they are the responsible leaders of tomorrow. Responsibility is very important aspect. It is a duty bound, it is within the compass of the service orientation of the education system. Now, the UGC has constituted a committee for studying the reforms in teaching, learning, examination system, and also the evaluation system. There, they have highlighted on some of the important points. The first is Diksha Rambha, that is a student induction program. That is most important in our, especially the higher education, but it has relation to the secondary and also the primary education as the case may be, because we cannot delink primary from secondary and secondary from tertiary and higher education. It is linked. That is the foundation, and gradually it is cropping up. Then secondly, learning outcomes based curriculum framework. Learning outcome, as I have said about what should be imparted to the students we have been teaching, we have been making a code for teaching, or we are making a curriculum framework for teaching. So that is most important. Learning outcome. Learning outcome is a reciprocal process. I feel that teacher will be doing much labor for developing their personality, and thereafter they will enter in depth to the subject, and based on that knowledge and experience, they will try to impart the education to the young children or the youngsters, so that they come with a outcome of learning which is skillful, which is innovative, and which is creative. Second is, as I mentioned about at the beginning, that our education system presently, the UGC is also trying to think about, say for example, the Jivan Kaushal, the curriculum for life skill. Now in our Indian education system, we are concentrating to make one person educated only one discipline. He is not at all interested in other disciplines. Say for example, if I am admitted toward medical science, I will be concentrated only the medical science and the health concern. But as a social being, I have some service orientation or objective that I forget. And also, I am not at all interested in learning the values of constitution, learning the values of society. My concentration is only in the medical science. If I am a technocrat, my concentration is only in technology, technocracy, and I have no concern about the culture, heritage, about the human values, about the mandate of the constitution, which I am also a citizen and I am bound by that. So that is why the multi-dimensional development aspect is given much highlight in this. And secondly, the higher educational institutions have social responsibilities, and the nexus between the social and the industrial context that will have to be negotiated by the higher educational system for fostering the social responsibility and also the community engagement through the higher education, so that the society is uplifted gradually to the marked extent, so that everybody gets a smile on his face. Secondly, next to it is Consortium for Academic and Research Ethics. As I have earlier mentioned about ethics, it is again incorporated in the research report, in the report of the committee constituted by the UGC, that in the academic and research aspects, element of ethics must always be there. In most of the cases, when interdisciplinary researches are going on, say ethical committees, say for example, somebody wants to make a research on different human body or different human, say human aspects, say for example medical science, say for example blood and other things. So there are certain ethical norms which have to be followed. In addition to that, when we are making a social research, it must be based on the ethical principles, so that it has some results, it has some impact on social development. In most of the cases, what we find practically about, say, 20 years in the Indian research in the higher education, what we find that once it has made obligation that one must get a PhD, one must get a PhD. I do not generalize, but there are many PhD researchers are there which are concentrating on the development of career of an individual. I do not generalize. There are good research, good fundamental research which are contributing to the society, but if all research of the research workers are oriented towards that, then I think it will be it will have tremendous result, and that is a goal with which the UGC is trying to proceed with. Then the scheme for transdisciplinary research and for the developing India's developing economy. Everything that research, whether in human science, whether in social science, whether in physical science, it must be oriented towards the India's developing economy, because economy is the foundation of the country based on which the country can progress. Then next to it is the framework for eco-friendly and sustainable campus development. When we are in the name of development, we are destroying the ecosystem. We are making imbalance of it by addicted with sense of greed rather than to prevailing over sense of need. We are destroying the nation. As a result of which, for last 4 or 5 months, we are to be confined within the house because we have already damaged the nature in such a way, and the natural calamity, disasters are coming as a warning to us that be content with your need. Do not go beyond the need and try to fulfill your greed. There will be annihilation of the civilization. That is a warning. Then next to it is the guidelines for inculcation of human values and professional ethics. What are the human values? We have constitutionally framed certain values. In the economic front, we have formulated certain values. In the social life, we have formulated certain values. But then, as we are not attentive to those areas as a social being, we are concentrating on individuality, individual development, individual progress, as a result of which we are suffering. We are not only we are suffering, we are making others also to suffer equally. The disasters, the natural calamities we have created is also destroying the hope and aspiration of the others who are not involved in this process of destruction, taking resort to science and technology. So we all are suffering. So that's a very important aspect the UGC Research Committee has formulated. Then Next to it is reformations in the higher education system, guidelines for reforms in evaluation and assessment system. Evaluation system, one thing is also very important, as for example, the continuous evaluation process, which was there in the Gurukula system in India, that is revived, but then it should be revived in the real spirit of the term, so that every day a teacher is evaluating the student, looks to the development, looks to the innovativeness, looks to the creativity, looks to the analytical upliftment of that student every day, because one teacher will be attached to the group of students and he will be dealing with all these aspects with his realized knowledge. He should try to develop the skill, try to develop the realized knowledge in them, so that these students, after completing their courses, they will be socially responsible wherever they are, in whatever profession they are. They will be a sensible and responsible citizen of tomorrow. That is what is important. Then much emphasis is also given in case of faculty induction program for newly appointed faculty members. Now, as I have said about the tendency that the education is an industry, that concept will have to be prevailed over by our old tradition of that education is not industry, education is a service. And with that mentality, we'll have to mold up right from the beginning of induction of the teachers to that particular discipline. And we will have to find out whether that particular teacher is developing that ability, that skill, that realized knowledge. It is to be tested, because for about 30 years, he will be dealing with those subjects and he will be teaching with generation of students. And so that there will be no hindrance to the development and upliftment of the creativity of all the students, that teacher will have to be chosen appropriately. Second important aspect is the system of monitoring by the NAC accreditation aspirant institutions. So they will have to formulate all these structures, and they will have to develop a system in such a way that education is gradually uplifting, and in their institution they can claim that yes, they have developed realized knowledge in their students, disciples, they have developed the creativity, they have developed the innovativeness in the students, and after completion, when they will go for the requirements of service in the society, they will be definitely behaving in a responsible manner, and they will definitely serve the society in a perfect manner. Then, after that, one important aspect is, as I have talked about, the teaching learning method is very important. And a teacher is always a teacher, but he is always a learner. Gautam Buddha, when he was on his deathbed, the disciples from every corner of the world came to pay a last respect and homage to him. And he was talking to every disciple of him. One of the disciples, being inquisitive, he made a question to his guru, Gautam Buddha. He made a question, Guru, are you still teaching? Gautam Buddha said that no, I am not teaching, I am learning. I am maybe at the peak end of my life. Learning is a continuous process, it can never be completed. And Gautam Buddha said that I am still learning from every disciple, the new ideas, the new experience, the new innovativeness, the new creativity they have developed after being educated in my system. And I must learn it, then only I will be content before leaving this earth. So that should be the quality of a teacher. And then only the teaching learning method will be improving. And in addition to that, as the value I have already mentioned about, the value system will have to be inculcated in each and every human being. And thereafter, now the question comes, After this induction of training or teaching learning method, or the students have learned, and nowadays learning outcomes. What is the result? What is the quality of the learning outcomes? It is to be evaluated. Now, UGC has given much emphasis to the standard question banks. The idea of that is that many experienced, well-learned people will gather and formulate a question bank, especially for the tertiary level, question banks. In that bank, the quality questions will be asked, and also the relevant questions will have to be formulated through research, that if this question is put and the student is answering in a befitting manner, then we can say that yes, that student has learned the lessons appropriately and he is worthy of going to the society for rendering service. That is to be evaluated. Then second important aspect is that moderation. When the question answer program is over, then the question of moderation comes in the evaluation process. In the moderation part also, the learning experienced teachers who are dedicated, who have devoted much of the time in that education system, and thereafter they are evaluating the moderation system. And thereafter, the technological know-how or technological assistance is very important, because we cannot ignore the technology. I also, being a student of originally a student of science, I do not say that technology is not necessary, and it is only because of the technology I am in a position to contact to my learned listeners through this device of technology. But then use and misuse is to be taken care of. Then also the learning management system, it is also to be taken care of by this process of technology. Second important aspect is, because of the globalized economy in India, as we have already joined globalization, liberalization, privatization in 1991, then the Indian economy, global economy, it demands a constant change regarding the human resources in every sector, especially the education sector in India. So primarily, the tremendous pressure is needed for human resource to keep up the momentum of pace of change and growth. Now the question is coming. The question is a question of competition. We are in the age of competitive world. Then in that case, the efficiency, the caliber, the quality, education is very important, and we will have to develop the creativity, innovativeness, and also the skill, and also realize knowledge in our disciples or the students, so that they are trained up in such a way that after completing the course, when they will go to render the service in the discipline they belong to, they will have a sense of belongingness, they will have a sense of rationality, they will have the sense of justice. And in this particular objective, the government has a key role in aiding and giving impetus to provide adequate and high quality education system. And very recently, the government of India formulated the new educational policy, which is yet to come up, of course. And in that, the policy has formulated 3 institutions. One is the research institution, which will do only the research activities relating to social economic progress, human life and all other aspects, human values, all aspects. Secondly, research and academic institution. There will be universities of research and academic institution. They will simultaneously do research in the real sense of the term, and also academic upliftment, as I have discussed above. Then thirdly, academic institutions, academic universities. They will impart proper education requirement as subject to the requirements of needs and aspirations of society, development, globalization perspective, all aspects will have to be taken care of. And thereafter, in the evaluation process, they will be evaluated. And one institution may uplift its position, say for example, a third institution, which is especially an academic university, it may, by the quality they have acquired, the tremendous contribution they have made in the field of research and other activities, social oriented, they may be uplifted to the research universities. And the research university, they are lowering down their standard, then in that case, they may be lowered down to any of the two other universities, maybe research and academic, or maybe academic institutions. So that is the mandate based on which our education system, education policy is formulated. But most important aspect is that we will have to look to those perspectives in a very effective manner so that we are in a position to do better for the society, because society is really expecting. With due regard to the position holders of our system in the high school and higher secondary, with due respect to their talent, intelligence, I respect 100 times, I salute their talent 100 times, but right from the establishment of process of conferring position in those examinations, the position holders in our society, where they vanish? They vanish into the individual development, individual progress, because of the system we have been doing in practice, as a result of which we are not getting the service of those talented people for the society. They are concentrated in individual development. I make a submission to the learned participants that let us make a campaign for that this talent be utilized for the betterment of society, so that we can get a better society, and society is really delighted with the contribution they will be making in the next coming days. The most important aspect, the need to assess application and skill in a higher ability, like analysis, creation, evaluation, lateral thinking process. In most of the academic world, we are concentrating on hindsight objectives. Whatever is there in existence based on logic, we try to put forward our logic and try to establish our position in a better way. But then I personally feel that there is a time to change from this domain to the domain of lateral thinking, where the creativity, where the innovation is expected, and that is possible. And if that is done, definitely we will be having a better society where there will be harmony, peace, and tranquility, where every person will enjoy the life with dignity. Secondly, in our system, today, there are two systems. One is the formal face-to-face mode of education as a classroom system. The other is the open and distant learning mode. There also, based on the technological development, use of technology, based on other skills, we can communicate the teacher-student relationship or teaching learning methodology in such a way that it results into a better result-oriented objective. And in the overall development of the students, their creative thinking, problem-solving ability, then right application of the knowledge, and maintaining again the ethics. The first is the creative thinking. Supposing one teacher who is versed in that particular discipline on the subject, he is teaching, delving deep into the subject and inviting the attention and intelligence of the student to that domain of deep study and make them think in a creative way. Can there be any innovation other than to this? That aspect is an aspect of real research, and we will have to develop that among the students. Second is problem-solving ability. Whether in the law or any other social discipline, there should be a nexus between the educational institution and the society for whom these educational institutions are established. And the nexus will have to go in an extension service to society so that we can understand the real aspiration, need of society, and based on that, their problems, their sufferings, their needs can be resolved by the problem solving ability of the students that we impart to them through that practical training. What is the right application of knowledge? So knowledge, I mean not only the academic knowledge, I mean the realized knowledge out of experience, out of skill it has been developed, and that knowledge is to be appropriately made applicable for the betterment of society. I'm citing one example. In the medical science, they have developed a knowledge, technological skill. And in many of the cases, the medical scientists, they are not maintaining the ethics, and as a result of which, as I'm saying, that education becomes an industry, because of which many of the physicians, I do not generalize, many of the physicians are taking resort to money-mindedness, and as a result of which, say for example, determining the sex of the fetus, they are taking resort to scientific development, and they are just inciting the offense of feticide in our society. So that is that is not the appropriate application of knowledge, because it is not based on the ethics that has been already formulated. And the very beginning, I have already mentioned about that there is a requirement of that need. As the great poet T.S. Eliot has said, that we have lost the wisdom in knowledge, and we have lost the knowledge in information. So information technology is there for information, but then that information is to be molded with ethical component so that it becomes a real knowledge for everybody, and then only the system will be perfect, because it is a coordinated conjunction of teaching, learning, evaluation, uplifting the capability of the students, and also the evaluation process, which are interlinked in the system right from the primary, secondary, tertiary, higher research, because these all are service oriented for the society, and society will definitely gain out of it. And it is my humble submission to the learned listeners that let us make a campaign for that innovative revivalism on the Indian culture of education, service-oriented, and phase out the element of industrialization mentality. Then only education will have the real value, and we will definitely get a better human society, which will be an ideal again for the rest of the world. Because when we have established Takshashila Vishwavidyalaya, at that point of time, there was no other higher educational institution in the world. And that has educated the entire world about the system of education, about the all-round development of a person as a human being, and render service to the society with a spiritual objective in view. And let us imbibe that culture. Let us make an innovative revivalism of that culture, and let us be an ideal and leader in the path of education to the rest of the world. And I hope and feel that it is very important aspect for us, and let us join hands for improving the education system so that we can make a clear example to the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
So I am getting a question from Dr.
Yes,
Pranay. Sir, I am getting a question from Dr. Pranay Kumar Aditya from Kokrajhar Law College, sir.
Yes, yes.
Okay, sir, he is just writing, sir, do you suggest changes in curriculum in our state for service-oriented education?
Then my answer will be that I've said that the primary education, secondary education, tertiary education, and higher education are integrated process. One cannot be isolated from the other, because one is a foundation to the next. And also, according to different scholars, or different philosophers that if we make this foundation very strong, primary education, say for example, value education, social values, human values, and now in this particular process of education, the role of the parents and the guardians are a fundamental duty at the primary level to educate them and teach them the social values which is not in the syllabus, and they will have to play that particular role, and development of love to the nation, love to the human being, that development, it is the duty of the parents. In the Convention for Protection of Rights of Children, it is there, and also the Commission for Protection of Rights of the Child 2005, that act has made a very mandatory duty to the parents. In the secondary level, primary and the secondary level in the formal education system, educational institution is another contributor to that particular process. And in most of the cases, when we were small children, then we found that in our syllabus or the course curriculum, the lessons were there on values. Even in the primary right of the children to primary education, if we go to section 29, the first mandate is that in the course and curriculum, the lessons imparting the values enshrined in the Constitution. So then we must make them aware of the constitutional values and how to protect them. There must be different types of lessons, and that is the first condition of that particular section. So value education is most important. Then secondly, the lessons we are imparting on different disciplines, it must have an interrelationship with others. Say for example, in the higher secondary, on the higher level, we'll be concentrating on certain discipline, maybe in science, maybe commerce, maybe in arts discipline. But then we cannot ignore all-round development. That was the agenda of our ancient education system in India. And that is why I'm giving much emphasis to that. Yes, we will have to revive that culture in an innovative manner. And the course and curriculums with the lessons of morality, with the lessons of loving to the nation, loving to the creatures, and also the sense of the need rather than to greed. Those lessons are to be imparted. It is maybe in the extracurricular activities or maybe in other social and cultural aspects, because when the education system is a composite of not only the formal lessons and curriculum, but also non-formal, maybe a culture, music, the history, the other aspects of society, that will have to be incorporated in the syllabus in a very befitting manner, so that we can think about orienting the young generation to be all-round developed persons, so that the tomorrow's India will be really benefited with this. So the course and curriculum, formal and informal, is a combination of that, and we will have to inculcate that spirit, because the parents are directly related to the formal primary and secondary education system, and the parents are also to be made aware of their fundamental duties as enshrined in the Constitution, Article 51, capital A, clause G of the Constitution, clause K of the Constitution, and that way I think we should try to mold that course curriculum for the better future of India.
Do you think that online teaching can ever replace the face-to-face classroom teaching after we come out of COVID-19 pandemic in near future?
Yes, to that, of course, about a decade back, the institutions of higher learning, the technological learning, IITs, in Madras, there was a conference of most of those institutions, and they were also techno-savvy. But then, at the long run, they have said that the direct face-to-face eye contact method is the best, and that can be the technological device can be an alternative to this, as because we are totally under the constraint created by the natural calamity or the disaster of corona. We will have to definitely adopt this alternative. But then, according to those technocrats, it is said that on their research, it is found that eye-to-eye contact is much better. The classroom methodology can be also improved with the technological devices. And I think after the corona is over, and I have seen, because my nearby small children are there, they are also imparted these digital classes, but they are not enjoying that much, as because when the formal classes are there, their teachers are in their front, their eyes are in contact with their teachers. They learn more, maybe of respect to the teacher, and maybe of the environment of their friends they were associated therein. And I personally believe that absolutely we should not depend on technology as an alternative. Definitely we'll have to take resort to, but then I feel that classroom, the direct eye-to-eye contact communication of teaching and learning is the best way for imparting education.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, sir. Sir, I'm talking with you in Assamese. Any problem?
No
No.
problem. I am used to 4 languages.
Yeah. Sir, আপুনি যিটো আমাক ক্লাছ ল'লে আজি, সেইটো হৈছে যে ৰিফৰ্মছ ইন টিচিং লাৰ্ণিং এণ্ড ইভালুৱেশ্যন প্ৰচেছ ইন হায়াৰ এডুকেশ্যন। মই ছাৰ এটা কথা জানিব বিচাৰিছোঁ, এইটো সময়ত ইন দ্য পেণ্ডেমিক পিৰিয়ড যে যিটো আমাৰ স্ক্ৰেপিঙৰ কথা কৈছে, এক্সাম স্ক্ৰেপিঙৰ কথা কৈছে, AGC SRD কৈছে, সেইটো কিমান দূৰ আমাৰ ফলপ্ৰসূ হ'ব বুলি আপুনি ভাবে, বা আপুনি কি ক'ব তাৰ বিষয়ে?
কোনটো কথা ক'লে?
যিটো স্ক্ৰেপিং অফ এক্সামিনেশ্যন, যিটো এতিয়া ফাইনেল ইয়েৰ এক্সামিনেশ্যন বিলাকতো আমাৰ নহ'লে জুলাইত
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা
ফাইনেল ইয়েৰ এক্সাম, এইবোৰ যে আমাৰ এতিয়া পষ্টপন হৈছে, কিছুমান প্ৰমোশ্যন দি দিছে বা স্ক্ৰেপিং কৰাৰ কথা ভাবিছে, UGC কৈছে,
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা
SRD মিনিষ্টাৰে কৈছে স্ক্ৰেপিং অফ এক্সামিনেশ্যন। এই বিষয়টোৰ পৰা আপুনি কিবা ক'ব নেকি?
এইটো আচলতে মই ভাবো এইটো এটা ফুলপ্ৰুফ চিষ্টেম হ'ব নোৱাৰে, কিন্তু আজি যিটো পৰিস্থিতি হৈছে
হয়
আৰু এই ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীসকলে এটা অমূল্য সময় হেৰুৱাব, এটা শিক্ষাবৰ্ষ হেৰুৱাব, সেইকাৰণে হয়তো সেই বস্তুটো এটা অল্টাৰনেটিভ হিচাপে লৈছে। যেনেকৈ ধৰক CBSE ৰ দুখনমান পেপাৰ তেওঁলোকৰ পৰীক্ষা হ'ব নোৱাৰিলে, হঠাতে এই কৰোণাৰ কাৰণে
হয়
লকডাউনৰ আহিলে। এতিয়া তেওঁলোকৰ এটা কথা হ'ল যে কণ্টিনিউৱাছ ইভেলুৱেশ্যন প্ৰচেছটো যদি থাকে, আমাৰ যিটো ইণ্টাৰনেল ইভেলুৱেশ্যন চিষ্টেম যিটো আছে, কণ্টিনিউৱাছ ইভেলুৱেশ্যন প্ৰচেছ, আৰু এইটো এইটো ছেকেণ্ডাৰী নহয়, এইটো প্ৰাইমেৰী হিচাপে ল'ব লাগিব। আৰু আমি যদি এই ব্যৱস্থাটোৰ লগত আজি ধৰক কৰোণা কালিলৈ যে শেষ হৈ যাব সেইটো কথা ক'ব নোৱাৰি, থাকিব
হয়
পাৰে, কিন্তু সেইবুলি আমি আমাৰ ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীসকলৰ যিটো অমূল্য সময় সেইটো আমি হেৰুৱাবলৈ দিব নোৱাৰো, তেওঁলোকৰ জীৱনৰ আটাইতকৈ মূল্যৱান সময়। তেতিয়া আমি এটা বস্তু মই ভাবো যে যিটো ধাৰাবাহিকভাৱে যিটো কণ্টিনিউৱাছ ইভেলুৱেশ্যন প্ৰচেছ, সেই ইভেলুৱেশ্যন প্ৰচেছটো থাকিব লাগে। যেনেকৈ আপোনাৰ হোম এছাইনমেণ্টত থাকিব পাৰে, বা অন্যান্য যিবিলাক ছেমিনাৰ থাকিব পাৰে, অন্যান্য ডিছকাশ্যন বিলাক থাকিব, অনলাইন ডিছকাশ্যন হ'ব পাৰে। এই তেনেকুৱা বিলাকৰ যোগেদি আমি যদি সেই ব্যৱস্থাটো, এইটো বিকল্পহে হ'ব পাৰে দেই, এইটো কিন্তু তাৰ পৰিপূৰক হেৰি হ'ব নোৱাৰে। আৰু যিটো ব্যৱস্থা এতিয়া চলি আছিল, আজি হঠাৎ কৰোণাৰ কাৰণে বন্ধ হৈ গ'ল, সেই ব্যৱস্থাটোৱে মই ভাবো আটাইতকৈ ভাল ব্যৱস্থা পৰীক্ষণৰ। কিন্তু এইটো এটা বিকল্প হিচাপে আমি ল'ব লাগিব, কাৰণ পৰিস্থিতি সাপেক্ষে আমি আগুৱাই যাবই লাগিব, সময়ৰ লগে লগে আমি আগুৱাই যাব লাগিব। সেইটো এটা আটাইতকৈ ডাঙৰ কথা। গতিকে এই ইভেলুৱেশ্যন, কণ্টিনিউৱাছ ইভেলুৱেশ্যন প্ৰচেছ যদি আমাৰ কৰা থাকে প্ৰকৃতাৰ্থত, তেতিয়াহ'লে মই
হয়
ভাবো যে শেষৰ পৰীক্ষাটো নহ'লেও সেইটোৰ ওপৰত ভিত্তি কৰি এই যিটো এটা এনেকুৱা এটা দুৰ্যোগ এটা আহিছে, এই দুৰ্যোগৰ সময়ত হয়তো আমি কিছু সহনশীল হ'ব পাৰো বা কিছু আমি শিথিল কৰিব পাৰো, কিন্তু সেইটো এটা মই ভাবো এটা শুদ্ধ বিকল্প নহয়।
হয় ছাৰ, কাৰণ যিহেতু কিছুমান ল'ৰা ছোৱালী ধৰক বেক আছে, সেইবিলাকক লৈতো সমস্যা
একৰ কথাটো
চবে সদায় এটাই কথা সোধে যে কি হ'ব,
বেকৰ সেইটো
মানে বেক থকা। হয়
নাই, মই কৈছো বেকৰ যিটো থাকে সেইটো এণ্ড অফ ছেমিষ্টাৰত গৈ পেলাই দিবলৈ লয় বেকটো। গতিকে মই এতিয়া ভাবিছো এই যেটো ব্যৱস্থা আমি এই দুৰ্যোগৰ মাজেদি আমি যাব লাগিব কৰোনা আহিছে আমাক নিজকো আমি বচাব লাগিব গতিকে এই মই এইটো ভাবো যে যিবিলাকৰ বেক আছিলে তেওঁলোকৰ এনেকুৱা এটা পদ্ধতি উলিয়াব লাগে যে কন্টিনিউয়াস ইভ্যালুয়েশন প্ৰচেছৰ যোগেদি তেওঁলোকৰ যেটো বেক আছে সেই বেক সিস্টেমটো তাত ইভ্যালুয়েট কৰিব পৰা ব্যৱস্থা থাকিব পাৰে সেইটো বিকল্প হিচাপে সেইটো মূল হিচাপে হয় তেতিয়াহে মই ভাবো তেওঁলোকৰ সময় বাচিব হয়
Thank you, sir.
ধন্যবাদ
Thank
ধন্যবাদ
you
গীতা
very
মেম
much. Okay, thank you.
Sir, another question from Ashish. Hello, sir.
হয়
Sir, লিখিছে, sir, since there are still many students who live below poverty line, cannot possess any multimedia gadgets like Android phone or laptops or even low internet network, which is more necessary now, and thus somehow create information technology disparity. So, sir, how can the stakeholders of the society help them?
it is a big yes I understand it is a big issue because in most of the rural areas electricity is also not there not to speak of Android mobile say many of the youngsters they are finishing their life because of emotion of not getting Android mobile but then this is an exceptional situation but if the classroom method would have been continuing without intervention of this coronavirus or the lockdown system. And definitely those youngsters, talented persons would not have taken resort to that. Yes, it is a big crisis, it is a big challenge to the system. And gradually, I think, because if we are to be entirely dependent on technology, then gradually, phase-wise, government will definitely take resort to the policy of expanding these facilities to the rural areas because the Prime Minister is making a mandate that within a specific span of time, every village of the country will be electrified. One solution. Second is there may be a community hall wherein those people who are below poverty line, they may be provided that facilities. Gradually, of course, the policy will determine everything because experts are there. They are making research on this, making analysis on this. And I think in the near future, because this situation has suddenly come, because of which the policymakers are also at a loss whether to take care of corona infection or take care of flood or take care of other natural disasters. In addition to that, this is also a kind of academic disaster that is coming to the face of the policymakers. And I think phase-wise, and if we have got some innovative ideas how we can make a suggestion for extension of this technology to the rural areas with our technocratic ideas, then we should provide that ideas and suggestion to the policymakers so that it becomes very effective. As a conscious citizen, I feel everybody has a constitutional duty, social duty for contributing to the nation in such a way by giving them innovative ideas, and especially at this period of the social crunch, we should try to extend our help by giving some ideas so that the technology can be made available to those ill-fated youngsters who are belonging to the below poverty line, and we can bring a smile on the face of them as well.
Okay, sir. Sir, another question from Sorwar Alam Khan.
Yes.
He's asking, sir, do you think lack of funding in higher education is a big problem?
He's talking about fun.
Yes, sir.
Yes, of course, because our social activities are proliferating day by day. New dimensions are coming up, and those dimensions are to be incorporated into the system by different policies. And also the need of higher educational institution and also the scheme support of the government to those institutions is a very big question and big challenge to the nation. And I feel that with the innovative ideas many policy makers are taking resort to, and many research institutions are taking resort to resolving these issues, and gradually, phased manner, it cannot be, of course, in a fortnight, it cannot be done, but gradually, I think the fund crunch, of course, is a great issue, and that can be resolved. And another important thing, as I've said about the industry and social relationship, and also the tie up resources from the industrial sector for the contribution of society. And many of the industries are the private sector, public sector are coming up to contribute contribute fund for the development of education. And if that is really monitored, pioneered, then I think contribution of the scheme fund and contribution of those uh, fund of the other sources, industry relationship with the higher education, then I think the fund grants can be gradually and phase-wise better.
So Sadiq Rahman, he is putting a question. Sir, I want to hear from your opinion on growing trend of setting up autonomous colleges. Is it good considering the poor quality of teaching learning standards?
A, a college gets the autonomous status when it fulfills the prerequisites as is determined by the higher educational policies and primarily the UGC mandate. And if any educational institution is developing to that extent, then definitely the autonomous status is given to them. But one thing is more important, as I have discussed and deliberated upon all the aspects, these autonomous institutions will also have to follow those principles in entirety so that they may have tremendous contribution to society. Autonomy Autonomy doesn't mean that autonomy of making their own autonomical policies, autonomical objectives, but then it is said they are autonomous because they are given the independence to think in a better way, innovative way, creative way, and they should maintain the standard in such a way that that becomes a model institution for the rest of the institutions in the country, and all the other institutions will try to come up to that particular state. One thing, as I have mentioned about in the recent educational policy, which is formulated but it is not implemented as yet, the categorization of the institution, higher institution as a research institution, research and academic institution, and academic institution, as the autonomous colleges are maintaining certain qualities and quantities because of which they are, because of fulfilling those preconditions, they are elevated to that autonomous status. But then, as I am showing about the three categories of institutions, research institutions, if the autonomous institutions are really doing tremendous, following these particular norms we have dealt upon, discussed upon, and they are accredited to be an institution of research, then definitely they will be conferred with a status of research university. And supposing the autonomous colleges, they are not in a position to maintain that quality as per the standard determined by the policy of policy in particular University Grant Commission, then in that case, of course, on the accreditation, their position will be lowered down. So autonomy doesn't mean that they have been given autonomous status for all the times to come. Yes, but then they will have to maintain the qualities, they will have to maintain the standard, they will have to do the endeavor of teaching, learning, evaluation process very effective so that they maintain the quality on interval evaluation system, then only that quality will be there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hope all the queries have been answered very well by our respected resource person, sir. There is no other query. Many thanks are coming. Okay.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, because I am away for the teaching profession for last 3.5 years. I'm
Yes, sir.
absolutely in undisciplined. I do not know how much of justice I could do to the learned participants, but with my little endeavor and experience, I tried to project my ideas. So if it is beneficial, then definitely I will be also beneficial. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you for enlightening us with your vast experience on the topic reforms in teaching, learning, and evaluation process in higher education. Most importantly, I thank you very much, sir, for accepting
you.
our invitation and giving our precious time out of your highly busy schedule. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.